You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now present the Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome to the Health Hub on Radio Maria Canada, exploring cutting-edge health and wellness information and therapies, helping you to take your health to the next level. I am your host, Kathy Biasi, and I'm a holistic nutritionist and a professional cancer coach. On our show today, we are talking with Dr. Yug Varma about a breakthrough treatment for acne. Dr. Varma and his team have discovered a probiotic that lives on healthy skin and specifically kills acne-causing bacteria. His company's breakthrough technology uses a naturally occurring organism called bacteriophage that specifically targets the overgrowth of acne bacteria. And this bacteriophage has been shown to flourish on healthy skin, but is nearly absent on acne-affected skin. Dr. Varma, PhD, is the co-founder and CEO of Phyla, the world's most advanced probiotic acne system. He has 10 plus years of microbiome research experience, including an extensive background in bioorganic chemistry, microbiology, and synthetic biology. Dr. Varma received his scientific training at several distinguished academic institutions, including Johns Hopkins University for his PhD and the University of California, San Francisco. His scientific work has been published in many prestigious journals, including Nature. Dr. Varma's mission is to change the way we treat chronic bacterial diseases and is working tirelessly to achieve this goal with a microbiome-based technology platform. He is passionate about promoting scientific literacy, and he devotes a significant amount of his time demystifying microbiome research and making the latest research accessible to the general public. The microbiome really sits at the heart of all that I profess and work with my clients. So this show has, again, opened up another avenue of how the microbiome impacts areas of our health, with specifically talking about acne here. We talked to Dr. Varma about what causes acne. Are there different skin microbiomes, how bacteriophages fight acne, so many things around this topic. It's a very, very interesting show. I hope you stay with us. We will be back in just a few minutes to talk to Dr. Varma.
You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now continue with the program, The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's show has been recorded, so no opportunity for calling in. Please do follow us on our social sites. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we are at the Health Hub RMC on those locations. Dr. Varma, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kathy. So nice to talk to you again.
You know, it's the microbiome is really the crux of how I work with my clients. And it's an area that has been, I guess, around a long time in research, really started picking up speed around the last 10, 15 years. Still, there are a lot of people who don't have an understanding of what the microbiome is. So before we delve into the different areas of the microbiome, I thought maybe you could give us, just a bit of a general idea of what the microbiome is and, where research is showing, exciting findings with respect to the microbiome.
Sure. I'll start with what the microbiome is, and it may be familiar for many of your listeners, but I like to approach it from a slightly different angle. I think of the microbiome as this incredibly diverse rainforest that's on our skin, in our gut, in our body, and it's an invisible rainforest. That's because the trees of this rainforest are made up of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and these microbes together form a community that we call the microbiome. Okay? Now, the microbiome protects us, and when we're healthy, our microbiomes all look different from each other, but the common trait they share is that they're diverse and they're stable, right? So they're resilient because there are many, many members coexisting, supporting each other in this web of life. Um, as the microbiome field has progressed and looked into all aspects of our health and how that sort of interacts with the microbiome, what we've realized is that having a resilient microbiome is really a good marker for long-term health, whether it's for the gut or for the skin. Um, and we've also learned that there are some diseases, especially chronic diseases, where they're driven by bacteria, and it's usually caused by one bacteria overgrowing, right? Um, Now, if you take this observation and pair it with the fact that when we have a bacterial disease, we counter it with antibiotics, that then starts to pose a bit of a problem and a conundrum because for many cases, antibiotics are the right tool. But for chronic bacterial diseases where only one bacterium is overgrowing and the rest of the microbiome is, comprised of good bacteria and needs to, be there and be in a healthy state to protect you, then dropping an antibiotic on that is quite harmful, not just in the short term where you get, side effects like redness, irritation, dryness on the skin, but long term, you're depleting and thinning out this protective layer that we have that's natural. And what that ends up doing is not only do we have more relapses, but we get more dependent on the harsh products that we're using, such that when we stop using those products, your acne comes back. And so that is sort of the broad state of the microbiome. Obviously, some really cool stuff happens all the time. There, there was actually one paper that was one of the most interesting papers I read. It's almost a year old, but really fascinating. This has to do with the skin and the microbiome, and they showed that our skin defense system, the immune system in our skin is always sampling and looking at the microbial composition on our skin and is sort of sipping it, it's sampling it and making sure everything's in order. As a result, whatever it takes in to examine, it develops antibodies against it. And so a team in Stanford asked, well, what if we engineered a skin bacterium, a benign skin bacterium, to produce tumor proteins? Would it then get picked up by the immune system, which would then develop antibodies against those tumor proteins? And then if you got skin cancer, that you would basically kind of vaccinate yourself against skin cancer by just rubbing a bacterium on your skin that lives there and kind of educates your immune system. So they did that in mice, and they produced a tumor protein against a skin cancer. And then they artificially induced the cancer in the skin of these mice. And they found that the engineered bacteria, when rubbed on the skin, gave a much, much better protection and a survival rate for these mice than just the wild type or the garden variety bacterium of the same kind that wasn't expressing these tumor proteins. What does this all mean? The take-home message is that we may have discovered a principle by which you could literally rub certain bacteria and create a vaccine against cancer, against probably other diseases as well, by having your immune system pick that up, educate itself or arm itself, and then surveil the body in the future. So
Oh, fascinating.
it's pretty cool stuff.
Okay, so let me tell you, I just love, everyone knows I just love talking about the microbiome because I just think that, in the next few years, it's going to be, all the research is going to come into practical play, or not all the research, but we're going to see it being involved in the health space a lot more. But, you said, and it is something that is a truism, that everyone's microbiome is different. So one healthy person's microbiome is different from another healthy person's microbiome. So I get this question often. And it almost seems intuitive that the umbrella of a particular disease would still allow for individual uniquenesses of that disease. Do I make sense?
Yes, I think, are you saying that in the context of personalization, for example?
Well, if someone has a disease, they have lupus. Okay, they have
Mhm.
lupus, and you're looking at the microbiome. It's an autoimmune disease, and you're looking at the micro. Well, everyone's microbiome is different, so everyone's disease resulting from perhaps an autoimmune derivative, the gut being sort of a leaky gut or whatever you want to call it. Repairing that would look different for different people, would it not?
Yes, certainly. And I think there is absolutely a room and um, kind of a future window that we look through where we say, hey, personalization is going to be important, right?
Right. Yes. And that
Um,
is sort of the pathway I'm going down here because the next step to this is, unless you've got research showing otherwise, the health of the microbiome is very dependent upon the individual that is housing it and their lifestyle and their nutrition practices and so forth. Is that still the case?
Absolutely. I mean, each of us is unique in the sense not just of our genetic nature or our genetic makeup, but of the circumstances of our birth, the foods we grew up eating, the environment we grew up with, what we played with and interacted with, and for how much time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is no more acutely reflected in any part of our system or our body than in our microbiome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all of those environmental factors, all of those temporal factors result in bacteria we picked up or have fostered and allowed to grow in our body. And that is precisely why different microbiomes are different. Now, I think your point is very well taken because of the simple observation that there is no archetypal microbiome, which is to say that there is no, like we have the picture of the ideal man, the Vitruvian man that
Mm-hmm.
Leonardo da Vinci had drawn, and you say, oh yeah, that makes sense, a man with these kinds of defined muscles and this kind of stature. But when it comes to the microbiome, there is no archetype. And so around the world, we see different people having radically different microbiomes who are incredibly healthy, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have people who eat fish, you have people who eat, mostly plants, you have people who eat a lot of meat, people near the coast, in tropical areas, in, frigid areas, in Scandinavia and so on. And so just I think the fact of that means that there is going to be a huge amount of inter-individual variation, and we have to play to that.
Mm-hmm.
What I think will happen, and probably needs to happen before that, is that we will discover some fairly, maybe not universal, but fairly principled lines around which microbiome health is built. And for example, one of those is the diversity of a microbiome, right? In
Mm-hmm.
general, you want a diverse microbiome. And a feature of a diverse microbiome that's stable is its resilience, which means that if it undergoes some sort of stress, it kind of bounces back to the mean.
Okay.
And so, how do we enforce those principles? There must be some generalized bacteria, which surely you will have to tweak around the edges for every personal kind of case. But in general, you have, one or a few strains of bacteria that will be a useful addition to most people's microbiomes.
I just think that this whole conversation is so empowering for people. And it is, that's why to me it's so exciting. And in the area you talked about skin cancer, you talk about different cancers that are labeled, you've breast cancer, colon cancer, so forth. We need to dig deeper into the individual person and the microbiome. And what I'm trying to say is that the way one person may react to a particular treatment would be different from another person. And this whole space of individualized medicine just seems to be on the precipice here. And I think it's extremely exciting. And I think the work that you're doing and all of your colleagues is so hopeful for people. Just so very hopeful. It's not just it's not any medication. It's not a reworking of something that we know. It's a brand new broad frontier that offers a lot of hope to people. So that's to me, it's very heartening for the future. Now, I don't want to take up too much time with this because we do want to really focus on the skin. And let's, is there a correlation between, say, the gut microbiome and the health of the skin microbiome? Do each areas work completely differently, or is it one chorus, one orchestra?
Well, we do know that there are connections between the gut and the skin microbiome. And, those connections are strengthened by the fact that the two the two highest points of immune surveillance in our body are the gut and the skin, which is to mean that the 2 points in our body where we have the most number of immune cells sort of under the surface, waiting, sensing, actively monitoring that interface are the gut, our intestines, and the skin. And those two are also coincidentally where the most bacteria live in our body, right? Okay. And so number one is the gut, number two is the skin. Now, we know that there are sort of interplays between the gut microbiome and the skin microbiome, just like the gut and the skin immune systems talk to each other. We are still at the beginning of that phase of research, and so we haven't uncovered a lot of crossplay. I think some of that gut-skin crossplay has been sort of researched, especially looking at psoriasis. But again, no clear connections have been uncovered yet. But again, that's what, to my mind, makes this field exciting, because there's a lot more to learn, and that's really exciting. In the field where we work, acne, there is clearly a systemic component, right? So, for example, everyone knows that acne is a pretty complex process, and it's affected by diet and genetics and stress and hormones, right? Like all the stuff that's going on throughout your body. But as we understand it, and we have a pretty sophisticated understanding of the acne microbiome, it all comes down to one bacteria in the acne microbiome, and that is Cutibacterium acnes, or C. acnes. Now, this is an anaerobic bacteria that lives on the skin, and it thrives on the natural oil or sebum that we produce on our skin. That's its food, right? So when we talk about how food interplays with acne, a lot of people think, oh, it's actually your food feeds certain gut bacteria, and those kind of set out a systemic signal that then ripples out into the skin and causes problems. That is not the case. What that does is, firstly, food is not a trigger for all acne sufferers. For those whom it is a trigger, it is the fact that they eat certain foods and their body reacts to it by producing more oil or sebum on the skin, right? Now, that stuff is a food for our acne bacteria, and that overgrows and that causes inflammation. So again, it's sort of a systemic effect But this is not the case of a direct interplay between the gut and the skin microbiome. It's just our body reacting to a certain stimulus and responding to it on the skin.
Does that particular bacteria, is that the cause of acne bacteria? And I'm assuming the metabolites of the bacteria. Is this the same cause throughout all different types of acne? Or, you have the adolescent acne, adult acne. There are all different types of acne. Is still the same bacteria that's the culprit?
Yes, all the causes of, or all the different types of acne vulgaris are caused by this phenomenon. So whether you have adolescent acne, adult acne, nodulocystic acne, mild, moderate, severe, even the acne that you get on your chest and your upper back, that is caused by the same process. And you notice that, we get acne on our face, but we won't get acne on our elbow or our knees or our, arms. And that's because there are actually three different types of skin microbiome. You can think of them as, three different types of like forests. So the first is the sebaceous microbiome, which is the oily microbiome. That's on our skin. That's on our face. That's on our upper chest and upper back. And that is characterized by the active sebaceous glands or oil producing glands that we have in those areas, right? Because those oil producing glands exist, they're providing the main food for this, very well adapted bacteria to live on our skin, the acne bacteria. Then you have the dry microbiome, which is your arms, your legs, your torso. Most of your skin is the dry microbiome. Not as many acne bacteria live there at all. Very, very few comparatively. And it's more dominated by Staph epi and Corynebacteria. And then you have the wet microbiome that's in your armpits, your axillae. It's in your groin region, any kind of closed crease space, even like the joints of your elbows and the back of your knees. And again, because those areas are more moist, you have a very particular environment and particular set of bacteria that grow there. And so that's why, acne is so intimately associated with this bacteria that, by the way, is called Cutibacterium acnes, right? And it was named probably, close to 100 years ago. So we've known the association of this particular bacteria with the disease for a very long time.
That's interesting. Just before we go to break, is the idea to wipe out this bacteria, or is there a beneficial aspect to it on your skin when we're talking about the sebaceous microbiome?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it will probably surprise your listeners to know that everyone listening to this podcast, every adult on earth, has not just C. acnes on their skin, but a majority of all bacteria on their face is C. acnes, 50% or more, usually 80 to 90%. Obviously, all of us aren't walking around with a throbbing case of acne. And the reason is that C. acnes is actually a normal, natural member of our skin and our microbiome community. And for that reason, the goal here is not to completely eradicate it. It's just when it grows out of balance that it causes acne. And so all of us who have C. acnes on our skin and don't have acne probably have C. acnes growing in harmony or in balance with the rest of the microbiome. When you have this overgrowth, it's really important to control it, because that is just the root cause of acne, and that alone will result in the amelioration of the disease. So it's a case where you have something growing out of control, but you're not really, pulling it out root and stem. You just want to bring it back to normal levels.
Balance, just like we aim for in the microbiome or in the gut microbiome. Okay, everyone, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to delve into skincare, how to properly take care of your skin, and the technology that Dr. Varma has been working with and on. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
You are listening to The Health Hub here on Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are. To contact us and be a part of the show, email thh@radiomaria.ca. We now continue with the program. Here once again is your host, Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are talking with Dr. Yug Varma. Dr. Varma, some fascinating information in the first part of our show. So you've identified the culprit when it comes to acne. You've also very clearly said that we don't want to get rid of this bacteria. So then what are you working on, or what have you achieved in the area of acne management?
Yeah, so, starting from this insight that acne is fundamentally caused by one bacteria growing out of proportion and causing inflammation on our skin, we obviously realized that, firstly, all of the ways we treat and manage our acne are using antibacterials.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you look at benzoyl peroxide or antibiotics or even retinoids, they all have an antibacterial component. However, they are indiscriminate killers of bacteria. So they're killing the bad bacteria, but they're also killing the good bacteria. And that results not just in an incredibly sort of harsh set of side effects that most acne sufferers have to endure, but it also results in this really unpleasant and almost universal phenomenon with acne sufferers, which is relapses, right? They use a product for a little while. It's encouraging, it's starting to work. And then after a few months, usually 2 or 3 months, it stops working and you're back to square one. You're super frustrated. And unfortunately, up until recently, the only option for you in that position would be you go out and you buy the same thing in a different bottle, right? And so you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again, which could be construed as the definition of insanity. Unfortunately, acne sufferers don't have an option because we have a limited set of ingredients that have been researched. Innovation has not progressed very much at all in the last 40 years in acne. And so they're kind of stuck with it. And even parents now who are looking for solutions for acne for their kids are disappointed that a lot of the same products and solutions that they used when they were kids that they hated putting on, really struggled through, are the same ones that are available for their kids that they're having to push to them. And so they're looking for something, new, and they have to believe that with all of the science that's been going on, surely someone had come up with something better. Now, if the target is to control this bad bacteria without hurting the other bacteria, right? Mm-hmm. How can we do that? There just don't exist technologies that can do that. Well, there was this very interesting discovery that was uncovered in 2016 by a study that looked at two kinds of people, right? Healthy people and people with acne. And they looked at their microbiomes to see what kinds of things are different between these two groups. The only thing they found was that there are phages that kill C. acnes that live on healthy skin, but are pretty much absent on acne skin. Now, what are phages? Phages are microscopic, tiny little viruses that kill bacteria. They're present in soil and seawater, and billions of phages are on our body as well. They pass through our body harmlessly every single day. They don't really interact with human cells. They're pretty benign and harmless, but they are nature's best defense against bacteria, and they're also incredibly specific by nature. So they will kill only one kind of bacteria and not touch any other kind of bacteria, even a close cousin. So having sort of understood what phages are, and obviously kind of start an absolutely mind-boggling discovery that was made, that people with healthy skin naturally have the phages that kill acne bacteria on their skin, right? You realize that, we all have that annoying friend who, has perfect skin, never gets a zit, and, they don't take care of their skin at all. And you wonder, what are they taking? Well, what kind of genetic lottery did they win? Well, chances are they have this phage on their skin that is naturally keeping their microbiome in balance and preventing the acne bacteria from overgrowing. We wanted to democratize this organism, put it in a bottle, so that you could have the benefit of this bacteria and, cure your acne in a sort of natural way. So we started off by doing some basic biotech research. This was funded by the NIH. And after we, did the research, we were really keen to get our results out in the world and out of the lab into a product. So we spent a couple of years doing formulation testing and safety testing. And then we launched our product after running a clinical trial. The clinical trial was obviously very important for us because we're a scientific company. We're really sort of a biotech company. And so that data is really important. And what it showed us is not only are we able to selectively control C. acnes without hurting the microbiome, and that results in really, really good signal against acne. So people's acne gets better. But what we found was that even in a short 8-week period, we start seeing a dramatic increase in microbiome diversity. Now, microbiome diversity is important because we know that people with more diverse microbiomes are healthier and have less acne. And there are actually some populations of people who don't get acne at all. These are kind of pre-human contact civilizations or pre-modern contact civilizations like the Yanomami tribe in Brazil and some tribes in Africa, where the rate of acne is either zero or extremely low. The rate of acne, by the way, worldwide is 85%. So that's a huge difference. And the difference is their microbiome diversity is off the charts compared to ours. So it's really important to have a diverse, resilient microbiome, as we just discussed. And phages are a really important way of getting that. And so having done all this important research, we've been in the market for a couple of years. We've had some, really great responses from the public, from our customers. And it's a new technology. Not everyone who has acne knows about phages or the microbiome or this approach. So we're hard at work spreading the word on podcasts like yours.
Well, is this technology a pill or cream? What is it?
It's a topical cream. So it's a serum that, everyone knows how to apply serums. And, we wanted to build a regimen that is easy to use, fits into your life, and is not a mystery, so that you can incorporate it into your everyday.
So thoughts in the past have been that acne is caused by, poor hygiene, bad diet. Is this all out the window, or is there a combination here? Is someone that doesn't have these phages just unlucky?
Yes, they're unlucky. It's a circumstance of your birth and your environment, right? So, for example, if a parent has phages on their skin and they, rub their skin against their child, and the phage kind of hops over onto the child's skin, then if the phage sticks around, the child probably won't have acne. Now, obviously, I don't want all of our listeners with good skin to go around rubbing their skin on close friends and family. But again, it's not a given, right? Because what we also know is that when you apply the phage on people's skin, sometimes it falls off. And we don't know why. There are probably certain factors in the microbiome or the person's skin makeup that prevent, that is hostile to the phages, or does not create a hospitable environment. But that's why our product also exists, because you can repeatedly dose your skin with phages. So even if it falls off, you have the serum to bolster that and replace it.
Can this be a preventative treatment, or is this specifically for people suffering with acne?
As a scientist, I would be speculating because we don't have data on this. But I would say that by the mechanism of its action, it certainly could work as a preventative as well. And I think that is one of the more intriguing applications of our technology. We have gotten that question repeatedly from parents who say, hey, me and my husband have a bad history with acne. My kid has kind of my skin. I can see it coming. Can I use this as a preventative because they're tweens, and it's about to strike. What I will say, which is, really amazing and and advantageous with our technology, is because we are using a naturally occurring organism on healthy skin. The safety profile of our technology is incredible. And so, kids can use it. In fact, we have pregnant women and breastfeeding women use it as well, because as you know, during pregnancy and breastfeeding, the hormones that are elevated in women often result in adult acne. And so our technology is incredibly safe. And so, although I don't have the data, I would say that it's highly encouraging to use it as a preventative as well.
So just to kind of put the pin in this, no risk of overusage.
Correct.
Okay. Now, your technology, do you see in the future, I know you're focused on acne, but I imagine that with your research, other skin diseases, skin eruptions may have come into your sights, like a roseola, something like that, psoriasis. Do you see this technology being able to service people with those types of skin diseases? Something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is an avenue that we are actively pursuing. So we are doing research on eczema, and we actually have some really encouraging results that I can't talk about, but that we're really eager to move forward with and develop. Broadly, we know that the microbiome is intimately associated with our health. And as we learn more and more about the skin microbiome and other kinds of microbiomes, including the mouth and the gut, we learn what are good bacteria and bad bacteria. And we need a technology, a way to control the bad bacteria, which will help the microbiome kind of heal itself and become more resilient. Right now, we don't have that technology. And our company is in fact developing, that technology, which is how do you kill one kind of bacteria without hurting all the other kinds of bacteria in the same place? So we see this technology as really a platform, a very broad-based approach, and a completely new approach to disease and towards managing health. And so I'm really excited to, be doing the next phase of our research, whether it's eczema or rosacea or, whatever the next thing is. And as we learn more about the microbiome, that will buoy us and propel us to the next, projects of interest in our pipeline.
At the risk of sounding silly here, you've been able to isolate the bacteria, the overgrowth of this bacteria leading to acne. Is it too simple to say that many other skin issues are an overgrowth of a particular bacteria not yet found, and therefore application of a current therapy that you are using could potentially work?
No, I think that's exactly right. I think that's actually a very succinct summary of it. And the way we think of health right now is, do you need to go to the doctor or not? Do you have, weeping sore or your arms falling off, etc. But, we know that health starts a long time before that, right? Sometimes you wake up and you're out of sorts, or something's not right, but you're like, I don't want to be a baby. I'm just going to go to work, or like, I'm not going to go to the doctor. I think I don't even know what I'd say, right? You couldn't maybe describe it, but something's wrong. And that is not a state of health, right? I think everyone would agree when they say, you're not healthy, but then you're you don't think, oh, I'm sick, because if you think that, then you would say, hey, I should go to the doctor, I should make an appointment. Um, so I think we're going to uncover many, many sort of underlying mechanisms of those kinds of phenomena where we're like, hey, I know I'm not running at my optimum performance or my optimum rate, and something's wrong. And often that something is something related to your microbiome. We've all had like gut issues or issues stemming from our gut that really severely impact our life. And when it comes to the skin, it's also similar, right? Sometimes you have like puffy skin or blotchy skin or uneven skin tone, or you like look in the mirror and you're like, wow, that's really not me. Like I don't know what's going on, but something's not right. Um, I think looking under the hood, looking at the microbiome could yield the answers to a lot of this, because a lot of low grade inflammation is generated and spurred by skin, which happens to be our largest organ.
It's fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. Now, just before we come to an end, and speaking to other people about this upcoming interview, the area of skincare products and the buzzwords of prebiotic, postbiotic, probiotic being included in skincare. Is that simply then, after you uncovering what you've uncovered, is that simply just a marketing tool?
So I'm a scientist and an educator, and I've sort of come into the skincare industry almost by accident. So I am frustrated often by the use of the word microbiome and probiotic skincare purely as marketing terms. And it's frustrating not just because of the work we do, but I think it's a real disservice to the consumer, because the public is justifiably, I think, interested in the microbiome because it has potentially a huge impact on all of our health. What happens when we use probiotics and microbiome, these words as just buzzwords, is that we risk disillusioning consumers and driving them away from this really important part of our health, this important part of our body that we haven't paid attention to for a very long time. And I think it's very serious. So I think people should know that most quote unquote probiotic skincare does not have any probiotics. At best, it contains dead bacteria or bits of dead bacteria.
Okay.
And it's like going to a supermarket and buying yogurt for your gut. You want to buy the one that has billions and billions of lactic acid bacteria or yogurt bacteria that are alive and in fine shape. You don't want them dead, and you don't want them not in your yogurt. So if you see that the probiotic component of your skincare is a ferment or an extract, then that means they're not alive. And in 90% of the products, they're not. So, we try to address that with some education as well. But I hope and expect that brands should do better, because people deserve better.
You're right. Now, your company is called Phyla, and you said you've got a topical cream. Is this available to everybody now, or are you still in the early stages of selling this cream?
It is available to everybody. It's available on our website, phylabiotics.com. Phyla is Phyla, so we're at phylabiotics.com. And in addition to our product, you can also learn about our science and our clinical trial. We work really hard to demystify the science around acne. And our impression has been that although we are now collectively the most sophisticated consumers of skincare that we've ever been, right? We know about all different kinds of ingredients and where we want it sourced from and what effect it has on our skin. When it comes to acne, there's still, I think, a lot of misconceptions and a lot of demystification to be done. And so, we're proud to be a part of that. But I think that if people educate themselves and learn about the latest science and avail themselves of an option that they've never had before, right? To have a solution for acne that's not harmful, that's not harsh, that's not stripping their microbiome, and more importantly, is designed to be taken with with a view of skin health for the rest of their life, not just for a couple of months or 6 months or so, then I think that's really important.
Just before I'll extend it a bit here because I have a question that I've been trying to get it out, but now's the time, I guess. Do you foresee yourself, or is it a wish, desire, hope of your company to work with dermatologists?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we've started making sort of doing outreach with dermatologists because we've learned that almost all dermatologists have heard of the microbiome. They're intrigued by it. And just like I was saying, there aren't a lot of technologies or companies out there that have products where the insights from the microbiome are being put into a product and are, credibly present. Dermatologists that we've talked to have been very, very enthusiastic about our technology. They can't wait to hear more. And we're, embarking on a plan and a journey to reach out to them in a systematic way so that we can, educate them about the technology, answer any questions they may have, share our clinical data, and so on.
Interesting. Okay, that's wonderful. Do you deliver to Canada?
We have started delivering to Canada.
Okay.
And so if you go on our website, we do deliver to Canada. Right now, we're US and Canada only.
Okay.
So that is great. And we'll be looking to expand in the future, but obviously we'll never leave our core audience of sort of, North America.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Varma, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. A lot of insightful information. It really interests me talking about the microbiome. So having guests on the show like you is just such a treat for me. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, Kathy. Great talking to you.
Everybody, we will talk to you next week on The Health Hub.
You have been listening to The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi, here on Radio Maria Canada.